Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news on the flagship show of the United Stand, the 8 o'clock Sunday night show. Get involved, get your comments in as always. Some big debate points to discuss on the show tonight as well. We'll be talking about, well, primarily, can Man United get top 5? Can we get Champions League football? Has this weekend put up any barriers there to that? Also, I want to talk about the midfield. I still think this is a huge area for Manchester United and we're going to touch on some stuff that's probably not been picked up from yesterday. Also, Gary Neville talking about Sesko. I think some of the reaction to what Gary Neville said about Sesko is unfair, actually. I'll read what he said to you, but basically he said the jury's still out. From what I saw on the watch-along yesterday and from what I saw on social media, a lot of people were saying a lot worse than that. So I don't know why people are piling on Neville for having an opinion about a striker that maybe he thinks the jury's still out on him. I want to talk about Dorgu as well. And I want to talk about the stubbornness around not just Amorim. I think we've seen today as well other managers who've been very stubborn and naive in their away performances. Bournemouth, Liverpool and Manchester United. And do we need to be a little bit more adaptive in how we approach certain games? Not formationally, but systematically maybe. Because I certainly think that that's a very important point to make as well. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you get your comments in as always. It's a long way to go this season, says Pete. I also want to say a big thank you to everybody as well, not just from yesterday, but this morning's show as well. Really big debates. I was reading the comments this morning and, some people are really locked in on, all this negativity is not good. We're doing really, really well. Let's be positive. And then some people are going, well, this is what we've been saying. Some people are running away with the optimism. We're still a long way to go. Looking at some of the players' reactions as well, Sesko, Dorgu, other players on social media, talking about, Casemiro, we fought to the end. It's a journey. We'll fight harder next week. I would say that Amorim's biggest obstacle yet actually is Tottenham next week, next Saturday lunchtime. And that's going to come around very quickly because it's Saturday lunchtime. But I think next week against Tottenham, I'm not going to talk about it massively on this show because we've got lots to get into, but I actually think Tottenham next week defines what this weekend was. You can predict what this weekend was, and for me it was a missed opportunity, but Tottenham next week defines it because if we draw against Tottenham, there's a very big chance we'll be down to 10th in the league. If we lose, we'll be even lower. If we win, we'll probably be back in the top 5 again. So I look at the last international break and we were mid-table and then we beat Liverpool and we beat Brighton. If we draw against Forest and Spurs and we're back down to 10th again, you sort of look at it and go, it's progress because we're unbeaten, but, where are we? So I think the Spurs game becomes a must-win to capitalise on the progress that we're supposedly making. But I still think you can't go from last international break, a lot of people talking about Amorim losing his job, to this international break saying we're going to get top 5. I think there's a story in between there, certainly. So lots to get into on the show. Obviously, we'll get into some of your comments. In fact, we've had a couple coming out here. Dorgu is terrible. Why does he keep playing him, says Brit Ace. And if we figure out how to cross, we get top 5. Well, let me just throw this in. This is a bit topical, right? So just to throw this in before I talk about systems and Sesko and Dorgu and Casemiro and midfields and everything else. So we know against Liverpool and Brighton, we went very direct, didn't we? So listen to this. This is off Y-Scout. Manchester United, I've just realised I made a massive mistake and it's going to do... Oh no, thank God it worked. I thought it was going to... Because I haven't used it for about 20 minutes, thought it might crash. So Manchester United, long passes against Liverpool. We played 44 long passes against Liverpool. Yeah, Anfield, long passes, 44. Against Brighton at home, we played 40. Against Forest, we played 47. We hit the ball longer, more often than we did against Liverpool and Brighton. Brighton and Liverpool play high-line defences and leave space at the back. And yet we hit long balls more against Forest, who are compact and don't play like that. So my question to you is that why did we approach that game in that way? And is this something we need to switch on? Amorim spoke about this on Friday, that we need to switch on to different ways of playing. We didn't. We didn't. Against Forest, we played the same way we did against Liverpool and Brighton. Didn't lose the game, but I think there's a bit of naivety in modern management. I think that Some managers are, I play my way and I play my way. And that's the way it's going to be. And that's great. That's absolutely great if you're Barcelona, because Barcelona play their way and they play their way. And they've won Champions Leagues and they've won La Ligas. I saw Bournemouth today, second in the league, go to the Etihad and go, we're going to play our way. And that's just what we're going to do. And they could have got beat 6-1. Naive, stupid, high line against Erling Haaland. They could have got beat 6-1. I saw Aston Villa last night go to Anfield and go, we're going to play our way. Passing out from the back, they lose 2-0. Liverpool have just lost 4 games in a row because teams like us bypassed their press and went direct. Villa roll up and go, we've won 4 games in a row, we're going to play out from the back. Naive. And then to a certain extent, we go to Forest yesterday and go, we're going to still hit it long every chance we've got. I think Bournemouth should have gone to Man City and gone, we're above Man City, let's hold second place, let's keep it tight at the back and counter. I think Villa should have gone to Anfield and gone, let's not play out from the back, let's go direct into the channels with Ollie Watkins, get up the pitch and try and cause them problems. And I think Man United should have gone at half-time, 1-0 up, let's keep the possession, let's frustrate them and exploit the space when they come onto us. But no, every single team went, we're going to play our way and we're not going to change. And I think, in a way, you could say that's commendable. But I think when you're not Liverpool and you're not Arsenal and you're not Man City and you don't have the resources they've got, I think in this league, in this competitive league, there are certain games where you can't just keep playing the same way all the time. Look at Brighton when they came to United last week. Playing out from the back, leaving loads of space. It was a freebie for us. So I think if we want to progress up that league, we do need to change the way we're playing. Not formation, but we do need to change the way we're playing. But the problem is we clearly have got, and it goes back, people say Goldbridge is stat man now. I'm not going to read you any other stat. I'm not going to read you any other stat because there's a point behind this. The midfield for me is a massive, massive problem. If we're playing more long balls against Nottingham Forest than we did against Liverpool and Brighton, and we played a lot of long balls there, then my question is, why? Why are we doing that? Why are we not trusting ourselves to not hit the long ball and actually just play 5-10 yard passes and work our way up the pitch? Because of the midfield. The midfield yesterday was shambolic. It was exposed. It left a lot of space. I think this is just... there's a poll at the moment, are Man United going to get Champions League football? 52% of you say yes, 48% of you say no. I pose that question because I'm interested, but I also pose that question because for me, it's not about Delo, it's certainly not about Sesko. For me, it's about that midfield. If we're going to continue to bypass our midfield because we don't trust it and hit long balls, I think we're going to become very easy to play against very, very quickly. For example, if I know Man United are going to hit long balls to try and get Mbeumo in, or Cunha in, or Sesko in, I'm not going to move to the halfway line. I'm going to make sure I've got mobility in the back. I'm going to get my goalkeeper on the edge of the box, and I'm just going to snuff out these long balls easily. And that's what Forest did, really. So both our goals came from set pieces, by the way. They didn't come from long balls. They came from set pieces. So I think Amorim is going to have to change and start it. The reason I mention this is next week, Spurs basically play like Forest. They basically play like Forest. So we need to find a different way of playing. I want to see possession higher for Manchester United without a shadow of a doubt. Gems has gifted 5 memberships. You're an absolute gem. Answer the question, Mark. Okay, are we going to get Champions League football, which I think will be top 5? I agree with everybody that says there's progress. I agree with everybody that says there are stubborn elements to what we're doing at the moment. I think if we, hindsight is a great thing. I think in the second half yesterday, if we'd started the half a little bit deeper and a little bit more composed on the ball, we might have weathered their storm, hit them on the break and scored a winner. I think we could have done that. So I think there's things we could have done yesterday. But I also look at it, we're 4 games unbeaten. We're still within touching distance. Liverpool and Man City play each other next week. If we beat Spurs, I wouldn't be surprised if we're like 3rd or 4th next week. And suddenly we're sat having this conversation next Sunday night going, yabba dabba dabba do. So I don't make any decisions based on this weekend. I feel like this is a project. This is how I look at it. I still haven't answered the question, but I will. I look at it like it's a project. I go, I can't believe there were Liverpool fans after the Crystal Palace game last week saying slot out, because they're third in the league tonight and they played well last night. So you've jumped too soon. I see this as a project. And it's way too early to understand what the completed project's going to be. So I don't go, we're not going to get, I don't sit here and go, that point yesterday was catastrophic and terrible. But I don't sit here and go, it's a good point on the road against Forest, because I don't know yet. I don't know. I might know more next week against Spurs. So I take the positives. We drew the game. We're still unbeaten in 4 games, which is good in this league. But next week, I'll know more based on what we're doing against Spurs. If we lose to Spurs, that result yesterday becomes a shit result. We beat Spurs, that result yesterday becomes a good result. So I see it as the project it is. I see the positives, but I also see the glaringly obvious issues as well. And for me, there's a lot of people talking about Delo, there's a lot of people talking about Sesko, and we're certainly going to do that next. But my take is the midfield is still a huge problem that we didn't solve in the summer. I think Elliot Anderson, as one player that we would like to sign maybe, but certainly as a player yesterday, exposed that midfield. And I think that we can deal with midfields of teams that want to press us high up the pitch, but we can't deal with midfields of teams that are a little bit more pragmatic. We can't deal with low blocks, and we can't deal with teams that play low blocks, and we can't deal with midfields that play low blocks because they don't overcommit, and that's why we got dominated. And when we're hitting more long balls against Forest than we did against Brighton and Liverpool, I'm sort of questioning why we're hitting so many long balls against a team that's not going to be vulnerable to long balls. And I think the answer to that question is, this is the way that Amorim wants to play at the moment because he doesn't trust playing through his midfield. And at times, that's going to be a problem if you can't be a possession team when you're 1-0 up. We have to be able to keep possession when we're in front. And I think, as I said, yesterday, you're 1-0 up against Forest. You know they're going to attack you. You need a bit of possession. You need to take the sting out of the game. And we clearly haven't got the midfielders to do that. Bruno wants to hit a long ball, and Casemiro doesn't take a touch anymore. He gets rid of the ball. We need to be able to keep possession. And we can't do that with the midfield that we've got. So this roller coaster season, this basketball to me, to you, Chuckle Brother FC, I think it's going to continue. And it's going to be exciting, but it's very hard to determine what the project's going to be at the moment. Do I think we'll get Champions League football? Well, 50-50 in the chat on the stream. Let us know if you're not watching live. You know what? Let me just riff this, because I wasn't actually going to do this, but the league table is making an appearance. Do I think Man United will get top Champions League football? I think Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea will get top 4. They're all there anyway, really. Chelsea are just off it. But their squads are better than everybody else's. They're there or thereabouts. I can only see them winning more games from this point. So I think top 4 will take care of itself, and I said that at the start of the season. 5th place, we'll learn a lot about that next week when we play Spurs. But if we can overcome Spurs, that's them out the way. I mean, I know it's not them out the way after game week 11, but if we can go to Spurs and win, they've then got to come to Old Trafford. Their home record's bad. I'd be confident we can finish higher than them. Bournemouth, we will beat Bournemouth at Old Trafford next week. If they play like that, we will beat them. Not worried about them. Sunderland, that's not going to last. Brighton, as I said, ridiculously inconsistent. Crystal Palace are a good side. We'll find out more about them at the end of the month when we go to Selhurst Park. But realistically, Newcastle aren't even there. Aston Villa aren't even there at the moment. So, look, yes. Do I think we'll get Champions League football right here, right now? Yes, but not for the reason you think. Not because I think we're the 5th best team in England. I just think that race for 5th is going to be chaos. It's going to be absolute chaos. I do not see at this moment in time a real contender for 5th place that we couldn't take. Like I say, Spurs, they look a bit dodgy. Sunderland, Bournemouth, Brighton, they'd just be a shock if they could sustain it. Crystal Palace, who knows? Villa and Newcastle could find some form, but why not us? if we're taking the positivity out of yesterday and the last 3 games, why can't it be us? So I think 5th place, you know, I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out. But I do think next week becomes really, really, really big. Bisson says Spurs, set pieces, Delo not marking, Van der Ven, says Bisson. I think if Sir Jim... But look, this is a great point from Alistair. I think if Sir Jim Radcliffe is serious about the Champions League, then he has to invest in January. The midfield. The midfield, Alistair, specifically. Would you give Martinez a shot at CDM? Also Shaw at wing-back, says Luke. I don't think Luke Shaw can play at wing-back for Manchester United. Somebody said this morning they don't think Mason Mount's actually fit. I agree. There is no reason Mason Mount wouldn't have been involved in the last 2 games, yet he's been on the bench. There is no way that Luke Shaw's body can deal with going up and down the pitch at that intensity for 90 minutes anymore. That's why he's playing at centre-back. So I don't think Luke Shaw can play there. But Mazraoui in the midfield, it could work. I can see us finishing 6th and getting Europa League, says Liam. And Nick P says, it was fun having a whole week living off the Liverpool win. Spending the week micro-analysing the Forest draw may not be so fun, says Nick. And Emily Derry says, we need players able to play different ways and now know when to adapt. Amorim can say what he likes at half-time, but we have players in key positions whose decision-making is questionable on the pitch. Yeah, I don't blame Amorim for yesterday. I absolutely do not think that Ruben Amorim sat there at half-time when we're 1-0 up and went, let's just switch off for the first 5 minutes to make it interesting. Who instead of Delo, Dorgu error versus Brighton, says Anton. Gems gifted 5 memberships. What do you think is the chance of us getting Anderson in January? 0, Kobe. If we figure out how to cross, we can get top 5, says Keel. So, just going back, I want to talk about Sesko before Delo. I want to talk about Sesko before I talk about Delo. So, we will talk about Delo, but this is probably a little bit more interesting. So, yesterday, I saw a lot of people getting onto Sesko. He didn't have a good game, but I saw a lot of people getting onto Sesko. This is a comment that was made by Gary Neville today on Sesko. He said, the jury is out. He's well off it compared to the other summer signings that Man United have made up front, like Cunha and Mbeumo. He looks awkward. He had a couple of good opportunities against Forest, but his touch wasn't right. For £80 million, you can say he's young and settling in, but you still want to see a bit more. In honesty, where are the lies? Where are the lies in there? Like, you can want to have a pop at Neville. You can want to have a pop at, you know, somebody who agrees with that. But where are the lies in that? The jury is still out. Well, it is. He's only been here 3 months. The jury would be out anyway. He's not performing like Mbeumo and Cunha. No, they're performing very, very well. He had a bad game against Forest, yeah. But you can say that he's young and settling in, and maybe we want a little bit more. I think all those things are fine. We are Manchester United, by the way. I mean, I wouldn't want to be sat here going, mate, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about your performance yesterday. It's absolutely fine. No, you want a player to know that they've not done as well as you would want them to do, but also say, come on, let's work harder. He's not £80 million, though. That is something I would say. He's not £80 million. So I would say that. He's not £80 million. He's, we've got to get that right. And the second thing I would say is, as one of our best ever fullbacks in our club's history, Gary Neville, I'd question why he's not talking about Delo, who's a fullback, before Sesko. But I don't know the context of that interview. But I don't have a problem with what Neville's got to say, and I'll tell you why in a minute there. But as one of our best ever fullbacks in our history, I'm surprised he's not saying something about Delo, who's put in multiple poor performances this season and has been here for many years, whereas Sesko's literally just still settling in and has only played a handful of games, to be fair. But let's stick with Sesko for a moment. What you got to remember about Sesko is that the criticism is fine as long as it doesn't go too far. And that statement from Neville's not too far. That's just an opinion. You can disagree with it. God, do disagree with it if you do. But there's nothing toxic in there. It's just an opinion you don't like if you don't like it. Or maybe it's an opinion you do like. The jury's still out. I don't think, from what I've heard I remember Gary Neville saying something about Sesko at the start of the season, saying, why is he on the bench? Why is he not being picked? So, maybe that's not the striker that certain people wanted. Maybe they wanted Ollie Watkins. Maybe they wanted somebody else. But let's not forget about Sesko. Like, maybe Ruben Amorim didn't want Sesko. In fact, he didn't. What we have is a really talented player who 2 weeks ago, people were talking about being really, really good. And tonight are going, I'm not so sure about him. Why? Because 2 weeks ago, he scored a goal. And then last night, he didn't. Or yesterday, he didn't. And that opinion just changes. It's a bit like Amorim in, Amorim out. Sesko's good, Sesko's bad. You're always going to get this. My general opinion on Sesko is that I've got no concerns at all. He is a new signing in a new league who is young, who is playing up front for Manchester United, which is one of the most difficult jobs in football because you get very little service. We are still not servicing our striker. We're still not doing it. And the stats will bear that out. But more importantly, we also need to remember that this is not just Sesko settling into the team, it's Amorim figuring out how to use a striker that wasn't even in his top 3 choices in the summer. So there's going to be a period of augmentation for both parties. And I feel that with Sesko as well, remember we wanted Delap, then we wanted Gyökeres, then we wanted Ekitike, then we wanted Watkins, and then we went for Sesko. So his 5th choice, and that's if we didn't go for Osman as well. So I would love this to be working out of the box. But he wasn't prolific at Leipzig. He wasn't mad prolific at Leipzig. He's a very talented young player who has a very high potential, but there's going to be bumps in the road. It's going to be a roller coaster. What else is going to be a roller coaster our season? So that commodity that we all need to find, and even I struggle with, patience, is something that we're going to need with Sesko, because he's not Cunha and Mbeumo. And Gary mentioning Cunha and Mbeumo, I don't know whether he meant this inadvertently, they are Premier League proven players in their mid-20s. Sesko's never played here and he's in his early 20s. So that's where he's got to go. That's the level he's got to get to 100%. However, I think we're going to need that. I think we're going to need that patience. But as I said after the game yesterday, why we're not putting crosses into the box, I will never know. I will never understand why we are not utilising crosses into the box for a 6'5" striker. Like, that to me is an absolute open goal that we are not scrutinising enough and we are not doing enough. So I think we've got to help him. I think some people criticise a player and you have to look at, are we helping him? Are we doing everything we can for him? And I don't think we are at the moment. I don't think we're servicing that striker, and we've heard that before, but I think yesterday was a prime example of how, when we're 1-0 up, what I would have said is, we've got 3 centre-backs and you can all pass. Calm the fuck down. Keep possession. Invite them onto us. And then pass through the passing lanes. Use the width. Forest are not a good pressing side. Let's be composed on the ball. We've got an extra defender. Invite them on. If they don't come on, just knock it around. Move down the pitch. Use the flanks. Use the wide players to overlap. And let's put some crosses in the box. Even if we're patient, we don't have to whip crosses in first time. Let's keep possession. Let's back ourselves. Let's trust each other. Let's keep possession and probe until we can put a cross in the box. Instead of hitting these transitional balls that are going to nobody, let's do that. And let's utilise a 6'5" striker. And I think that might not be the way Amorim wants to play, but this is what I'm talking about. I think you've got to adapt if you want to win games week in, week out. You've got to adapt. And when you've got a striker like that, I'm not totally comfortable with the way we're utilising Sesko. He's not particularly fast over the first 5 yards. He is fast, but he's not particularly quick over the first 5 yards. And I wouldn't expect a 6'5" striker to be fast over the first 5 yards and a brilliant brilliant first touch link-up player. I think we've got to meet him halfway. We've got to play to his strengths, and I think we can do more there. But I'm not unhappy with Sesko, and I think that it is early days. But look, let me have some of your comments. Speaking of, Sean says, speaking of, am I misremembering, or did United Amorim not highlight right back as a position in need of strengthening? Surely left has to be a bigger priority. The biggest problem we've got with putting crosses into the box is that we have inverted fullbacks. Like, Delo, whatever you think about him, hasn't got a left foot, and Ahmad hasn't got a right foot. So we can't put the early cross in. And I've played the game, and I'm sure you've played the game. The thing I hated when I used to play centre-back was an early cross. And, what I call a Beckham cross. Right-footed player, right-hand side, or Giggs, left-footed player, left-hand side. Why this has died off, I do not know. Because we're looking at modern football, and everything goes in cycles. And I'm seeing teams at the moment playing like Stoke and Wimbledon, which is 15 years ago and 30 years ago. Teams chucking long throw-ins in, percentage ball. Teams hitting long balls, set pieces. So if that can come back into fashion, why can a natural cross not come back into fashion? So if I'm a defender and I see Ahmad on the right-hand side and he's got an opportunity to cross it with his right foot, I know he's not going to do it. So I have a little look at my defender, I look at my striker, he cuts back on his left, he's curling it towards my head, and I've had an extra couple of seconds to get ready. I fancy my chances. If David Beckham's on the right, well, he's probably a bad example because he's a goat. But if a right-footed winger's there and they're ready to cross, I ain't got time to look where the striker is because they're going to cross it. And also, the curl on the ball is not really on my head. It's curling that way. It's the one where if you're attacking it, harder to defend. I've got a 6'5" striker. I don't know where he fucking is, and he's going to cross it on his natural foot. Delo cuts back on his right foot. He's not going to cross it with his left foot. Where's Sesko? Okay, this is something that I understand the inverted winger. I understand the inverted winger because when you cut inside, it's a better shot. But I don't understand the inverted wing back because surely when we've got 3 players in the box, we've got 2 number 10s and a striker, we want to put some natural crosses into the box. And I think it would massively help with Sesko, massively. So talking about the wing backs, I don't like the balance of it. And somebody said, well, Dorgu over Delo, Dorgu's made mistakes. I can't, for the life of me, understand how anybody thinks Delo is better than Dorgu. I don't get that. I understand that Dorgu's a work in progress. He's only just 21. He's not even been here a year. Definitely a developmental project player. But he's naturally left-footed and he's better than Delo. So for me, Dorgu has to play. I can defeat. It's like Topps cards, isn't it? Delo's a better defender than Dorgu. Is he? Is he really? What games have you been watching then? Because the last game I watched Delo, and the game before, he always gets beaten on the back post. He gets outpaced by most people, and he's not particularly good at clearing the ball or positional. So Dorgu's a better defender than him. Delo's a better crosser of the ball. He can't bloody cross the road from the left-hand side. Can't cross his bloody legs from the left-hand side. So Dorgu's better at crossing than him as well. Delo's quicker than Dorgu. Shut up. So I think Dorgu is a better defender. He's quicker, and he puts a better cross in. Yes, he's a developmental player. Yes, he's a project player, but he's got to play. He's got to play. We're a better team with Dorgu in the team, and we were a better team in the last 20 minutes with Dorgu in the team. I mean, one of the reasons we got back in the game, I think, was because Dorgu came on and did quite well. So, look, I'm not saying Dorgu is necessarily going to solve all our problems, but in the short term, he should be playing on the left. On the right-hand side, I actually think Ahmad's done quite well. I'd like him to have a right foot, but I actually do like Ahmad on the right-hand side. So, I think that we do need to make that change on the left-hand side, and I'm sure he probably will against Spurs. We probably need to make some investment into those areas as well. But for a manager that's all about a 3-4-3, two of the most important positions in his team are the wide players, and they are questionable. They are questionable yesterday, for sure. Both positions cost us a goal. I don't blame Ahmad because he can't grow any taller, but we do need to solve that issue. Chelsea against us a few weeks ago. Reece James' right-footed cross into the box caused havoc, and they scored, says Emily Derry. I mean, look, I'm sure Ruben Amorim, as a fantastic coach, would sit me down if we could get him on the show and explain why he does it. But as Emily said there, it's not like it's redundant to put a natural cross into the box. Jacob Murphy is a right-footed winger for Newcastle. And how many goals have they scored over the last 2 years because of his crossing? And Voltemeda has benefited from it twice this season. So I just think we've got a 6'5" striker. Let's put some natural crosses into the box. Speaking, thank you very much, Sean. Bold take, United will win every game in December, says Mazraoui. Well, it's November at the moment, but I hope you're right. Incognito says, do not disagree with Neville, but the comment was a bit unnecessary and he's completely different signing to Cunha and Mbeumo, who are both Premier League proven and 3 years older. I don't know the context of it, but I don't think it was unnecessary because we've just drawn a game to Nottingham Forest, and I think that anybody who watched the game knows that we didn't play particularly well. Some people even think we snatched a draw that maybe we didn't deserve. So you've got to look at the game and go, where were the issues in that team? Delo was dreadful. The midfield wasn't very good. The striker didn't have a good game as well. So it's a topic of conversation, and I think it's a relevant one. We need a wing back more than a midfielder, says Sharas. Midfield seems to be okay, but we need to replicate the Ahmad and Mbeumo partnership on the right-hand side to break down low blocks. Left-hand side, I know what you mean. Sesko is 1,000 times better than Rasmus, in my opinion. Patience, says Evan. I mean, I think that's probably the worst comment you've ever made. But obviously, you like Sesko. But, I mean, look, mate. I'll give it the time of day, but he's not 1,000 times better, is he? He's just not. And also, it's irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant because Rasmus is not a Man United player anymore and Sesko is. So, these playground arguments are exactly what I said last week. They belong in a bloody playground. Like, literally on Friday, people were saying, we dodged the bullet with Gyökeres. Oh, we dodged the bullet. Ha ha, Arsenal. Ha ha. You should have gone for Sesko. We dodged the bullet. Gyökeres played amazing for Arsenal yesterday. His best game yet. And Arsenal are where in the league, we've got to stop looking at a conversation, which is a topic, and going, yeah, but he's better than him, and he's better than him. Like, we need to get the best out of Sesko. And at the moment, the jury probably is still out. I like him as a player. I've always liked him as a player. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. He's got a rocket of a shot that we haven't really seen much of yet. He can score very good goals. He's got you know what annoys me about Sesko is, when we signed him, who remembers the little clip of how high he can jump? Who remembers that? Who remembers that clip of the 6'5" striker who can jump really high? And we were all going, oh my God, he's absolutely massive. And we're not putting crosses in the box. So let's meet the problem halfway. And it's not a problem, but it's something that we can be better at. This guy has a very, 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 very big asset. Let's play to that. Because looking at the game yesterday, I don't remember one cross anywhere near him. Anywhere near him. And if we put the crosses in and he's heading them over the bar, then we can talk. But, we do need to utilise this. But I will defend Amorim on this. His summer plan clearly wasn't, I want a big striker to put crosses in the box. It wasn't, was it? But he's got it, and this goes back to what I was saying about Bournemouth today and Villa last night and us. You've got to look at circumstances and go, let's be adaptable. Let's be adaptable. Let's keep possession and calm the game down for 10 minutes. Let's wait for them to come on to us and then hit the long ball. Let's put some crosses into Sesko because he's really good in the air. We need to be fluid if we're going to get up that league. Because if we're just going to play the same way every week, teams are going to figure us out very, very quickly. Champions League, yes. If we can score 2 a game, we will win, draw more than lose. But again, consistency rears its head. The league is inconsistent. I said this morning, Ray. I don't know whether you watched the show or not. The big positive for me yesterday is obviously the point. But our ability to score 2 goals a game, which I think we're just about doing. It was 1.7 goals per game before the Forest game. And it's got to be close to 2 now. If you're scoring 2 goals a game, you're going to pick up a lot of points. Jordan Webber, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for getting your badge in. We really appreciate you. Thanks for being a member. Mark's also a member and he's given us a super chat. He says, agree, Mark, this season is so open. If we can put a run of form together, then 100% we can finish in the top 5. I feel the squad is more together this year. Well, they're certainly making noises about that, Mark. And yeah. Marlowe says, I find it strange that people are questioning Sesko without mentioning Watkins and Isak nightmare seasons. We must be patient, says Marlowe. Fair point. Sesko is not just tall, he can jump high as well, says Halke. Yeah, and I'm sure there might be people going, you know, it's not as simple as putting a cross into the box, but it is. For Arsenal, it's as simple as if teams are going to park the bus, let's win a corner. For Manchester City, it's as simple as let's get Erling Haaland in a foot race against the last centre-back. Football is very simple. We have a massive, massive asset. Unfortunately, when you look at the way we line up yesterday, we physically cannot put a cross into the box because Dalot is left-footed and Ahmad is right-footed. Dalot is right-footed and Ahmad is left-footed, and they're on the wrong side. So we physically cannot put the cross into the box. Because to put a cross in the box, it's easier to do off your natural side than it is to cut back and put a cross in. So we have to do more of it. Chelsea against us. I've done that one from Emily Derry as well. Viewer 9876 says, why is Dalot undroppable? I haven't really spoken about Dalot a lot, and I've seen a lot of people speaking about Dalot a lot. And the reason I haven't spoken about him is because, well, it should never be personal anyway. We should have learnt those lessons over the years. It should never be personal anyway. And I know for a fact that Dalot is really liked at the club. And I know for a fact that he's a good lad. And I know for a fact that he works really hard. And I know for a fact that he really loves the club. And, you know, he puts the work in. But he ain't good enough. And all those things I've just said, if we're being ruthless, don't matter. If we had a player that turns up late for training and, you know, is just motivated by money and is a bit of a twat, but he's world class, and when you pick him, he performs well, probably we're all going to pick him. If you've got a player that turns up early, stays late, is really well liked, has a great attitude, works really, really hard, cares about the club, but ain't good enough, then you shouldn't pick him. And that is where I am with Dalot. I don't like saying, and I backed Dalot. Like, someone made a great comment yesterday in the match reaction. They said, fair play, you've always backed Dalot, but this is why I like this community, because you will change your mind based on the evidence. It takes me a while because I don't like to flip-flop back and forward, but I have always liked Dalot. And I have always thought he was going to be good enough. But he's 26, 27 now. And look, when he's playing at left wing back, sometimes he's playing at left wing back because people are injured. He has played at left back for Man United under Ten Hag, and I think under Amorim because we've got no one else. And when he's doing that, I think you've got to put your hands up and go, there's no one else. Like, I know he didn't play well yesterday, but if we had no one else and he's doing a job for us, I think you've got to go, hold on a minute. All right, it wasn't a good performance, but he's doing a job that no one else can do, and it's not even his job. But when he's playing there and there are other people that I think can do a better job, I think that becomes a big, big problem. So I just don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's good enough. Maybe he's good in a back four at a right back, but I just don't think he's good enough. And we can say and we can shout and talk and debate, but I think we've seen enough to know that even though we've won 3 games and drawn 1, I think he was okay against Sunderland. He wasn't good against Liverpool. He wasn't good against Brighton, and he wasn't good yesterday. So if Amorim's all about fairness and Amorim's all about you can play your way into my team, then he shouldn't be in the team against Spurs. But maybe he will be. I don't know. Some managers have favourites. Some managers see things we don't see in training. There's obviously a logic to it, but he shouldn't be in the team. He's not playing very well. And I know I've given a long answer there, but ultimately, he's just not good enough to be in the team at the moment. And I don't think many people would have him in a best 11 anyway, but I certainly wouldn't have him at left wing back. Ray Cowley says, yes, they are inverted, but I think personally, do we have natural crosses of the ball anyway? On their natural side, did they play the cross? I think the best crosser of the ball at Man United is probably Luke Shaw, but he can't play left wing back because his legs won't do it. And I think you make a good point. How many people can put a good cross in that team? Bruno can put a good cross in from the right. Casemiro can put a good cross in from the right, but you can't play Casemiro as a right wing back, and you can't play Bruno as a right wing back. Luke Shaw can put a good cross in from the left, but he's playing at left centre back. Delo used to be able to put a good cross in, but doesn't seem to be able to do it anymore. I think Dorgu, the jury's out on him. I think he can put a good cross in, but we haven't seen enough of it. But you're right. We've got this massive striker, and we've got no one who can put a cross in, which leads me to believe that was never the bloody plan. And I don't want a Blue Peter badge, but we clearly do not want to put crosses into the box. Last season, we were in the bottom half of the table for crosses into the box. In fact, I can probably get this for you whilst we're talking. But you do raise a good point. And that point is why and how do we become better at doing that? How do we become better at doing something, and do we want to do something? And I don't think we do. I don't think we actually do want to put crosses into the box. Yeah, as I said, last season we were down near the bottom of the league for crosses into the box. This season we're in the bottom half as well. So we are talking about something here that's, in fairness to Amorim, quite possibly, evidentially, not what he wants to do. He wants to transition quickly down the centre of the pitch, into Mbeumo, into Cunha. I don't think he wants to overlap and put crosses in the box. So that means we've got to try and use a 6'5" striker in a different way. I find it done that one as well. Thank you very much there. I'm living in London. Everyone hates the Spurs, says bored Dave Boy. Simple term, our wing-back options are lacking quality, but our midfield lack quality and profile to play possession. When our direct style of play not works, we struggle in the final third, says Yamikaze. There's a slight contradiction here, isn't there? And if we call it for what it is, I think overarchingly, we want to see a Manchester United side that can go to Forest and play in a different way to the way it did against Brighton, because you can't just keep hitting long balls against Forest. They're a compact side. We can't keep possession because the midfield are incapable of doing it. We want to put crosses in, but maybe Amorim doesn't want to play that way, but he's got a 6'5" striker. To put crosses in, you've got to work to a position where you can put a cross in. You can't hit a long ball to the wing and then wait everyone to catch up. So to play crosses, you've got to have people to cross the ball, and you've got to get to a position to cross the ball. How do you work to a position to crossing the ball? Well, you've got to work your way up the pitch. How do you work your way up the pitch? You've got to pass your way up the pitch. We're not doing that. We're hitting long balls because we can't pass our way up the pitch. So we can't put crosses in. The only way we can put crosses in is from set pieces. So we're not set up to build possession up to a position to put crosses in the box. I like Sesko, but how he played the entire 90 minutes versus Forest was crazy, says G-Man. When Martinez does get back in, what will happen to Shaw? Well, look, this is a good point from Lawman. If we get Martinez back, Could Luke Shaw go to left wing back? He is definitely the best crosser of the ball on the left-hand side. I am amazed that he's not been injured this season. If we put him at left wing back and ask him to run up and down for 90 minutes, which increases his load compared to being a left-sided centre-back, will he get injured? It would solve a problem, but would he get injured? And I think that the honest answer is he's probably going to get injured quite quickly playing that role. Definitely. Star-Lord says, if we want Champions League football, we need to turn this corner. If we want Champions League football, two things need to happen. One, apart from Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal, everybody below needs to be shitter than us. Two, we need to find different ways of playing. So if you want to get Champions League football, you need to win games like that yesterday. In my opinion, you need to win that game. If we want to get Champions League football, like when we play Bournemouth at home, we will win. In my opinion, we will win because Bournemouth, like Brighton, play high line and try and play it through you, and we will hurt them. When we play Brighton at Brighton, they'll do the same and we might get a result. When we play Crystal Palace at the end of the month, that's going to be a tough game. I'm looking at teams now, and I'm not looking at, where they are in the league. I'm looking at style of play. So I'm looking at Crystal Palace and I'm going, back five, combative midfield, good in the air. How are we going to score goals against Crystal Palace? They are not going to get caught by long balls and, one-on-ones. So how are we going to beat Crystal Palace? Everton at home. If Moyes sets them up like he can do, how are we going to get that first goal that stops them doing that? Bournemouth at home, on paper, is a harder game than Crystal Palace and Everton, but stylistically, I think we'll struggle more against Crystal Palace than Everton. Brighton are better than Nottingham Forest, but we found Brighton far easier to play against. So I'm looking at games now and I'm going, it's not really about where teams are in the league, it's about how they play. We at the moment need to find a different way of playing against those teams that are problematic, because some of these teams, where they are in the league, are not a problem. Leeds might be a problem for us. Wolves might become really compact. West Ham might become a problem for us. Even though they're down in the bottom of the league, the way they play might be a problem for us. And that's what I'm talking about. I think that we're going to have to find different ways of playing, because we can't just hit long balls and hope that Mbeumo is going to get in behind, or Cunha or something like that. We're going to have to find different ways of playing, because I tell you what, the big positive is we're on a 4-game unbeaten run. We're scoring 2 goals a game, and hello, 5th place will get Champions League football, and it's wide open like a barn door. Like, it's not like what could have happened. We could have been in a situation where we're sat in 8th and we're 6 points off 5th because Newcastle are having a good season, and so are Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea and Liverpool. That 5th place is there. It's there. We're talking about how we get it, but it is there. That's a positive. We're scoring 2 goals a game. That's a positive. We're 4 games unbeaten. That's a positive. But that's there for the taking. I just think if we're going to play the same game every week, we could become Brighton. Like, Brighton have won their last 2 games at home by scoring 6 goals. They're 10th because they are literally inconsistent, because they don't change the way they play. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, because they don't change the way they play. If we want to be in the top 4, we've got to change the way we play sometimes. We've got to be smart. Look at Arsenal. They haven't played particularly well this season, scoring loads of set pieces. Rob Always United says teams always turn up against us. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, Rob. I really don't. I think gone are the days where, it's Man United, let's play out our skin. I have seen that, but I don't think that now. I think we're living through an era now where we're a big team, we're a big name, but I think teams fancy their chances against us in the way they play. And we've won some games recently. No, Brighton didn't turn up against us. I don't think Sunderland turned up against us. Burnley didn't turn up against us. Chelsea didn't really turn up against us. Liverpool didn't turn up against us. I don't think our problem is everybody plays better against us than everybody else. I think the problem we have is that we are a little bit easy to read at the moment, but we are still a work in progress as well. What we're talking about here is effectively how do we get better? How do we get better? How do we turn that Forest draw into a win? And you know, easily we can do that. There's a little story coming here from from Fabrizio Romano. Amorim has made it clear to the Man United board that he doesn't want stopgap signings. He wants players that can be in the squad for the long term. I mean, I'm just literally being sent this now. My thoughts on that are that if a manager is told in January, you can have Conor Gallagher now, or you can wait to the summer and see if you can get Baleba, you'd be an absolute fool not to take Conor Gallagher. It's idealistic. And it's total shit. It's idealistic crap that doesn't exist in football. You're telling me, in January, if Ineos say you can have Mitrovic until the summer as a stopgap to get us through to the summer, Ruben Amorim's going to go, no, I don't want anything. Sesko breaks his leg. United finish 9th. Amorim gets the sack. Like, you're literally talking about a vocation which is the greediest in football. A manager will never turn down a stopgap signing in January to get through to the summer. Why would you? Why would you? So this idealistic opinion that Ruben Amorim's going to say, no, I don't want anybody in January because I'd rather wait till the summer. That sounds to me like the propaganda you start to get before a January transfer window where, Ruben, can we share the load a little bit here? Because we've seen what Mertes said in the past where he says there's no value in January and we like to sign in the summer. And we get a lot of shit for that. So it would be quite good if also we could say you don't want stopgap signings as well, you know, because then you can get a little bit of the blame as well. We're not going to get the players that we want to get in January, but we do need to get players in. 100%. 100%. Great show. I've been following the United Stand for 10 years, but because of my location, I wasn't able to comment. Keep up the great job, says Jeremy. And now we're all intrigued about what your location is. Marlo says Mbeumo is a good crosser, so why are we not making use of that? Yeah, but Mbeumo is a very good crosser of the ball. Why are we not utilising that? Heike says, I've noticed that so many Premier League clubs rely on crossers and looks like a lucky goals, but it is luck or they practice those set pieces. Mate, right, I'll tell you a little bit about crossing and set pieces, right? Corners, if you had the time to analyse every Premier League corner this season by Manchester United or in general, you would get a high percentage of corners that don't hit the first man, are over hits, or aren't very good. Now study Arsenal's corners from Sesko and Rice, and the dip, pace, and ability to land it in the area of the goalkeeper is incredible. Now, they've either got two ridiculously talented corner takers, or they've got two people and a coaching staff that have worked on it a lot. So what we're going back to there is the ability to put a good cross into the box. And it's very important. And when we've got a player like Sesko, we should be utilising that. There's also another comment coming in here from Romano. Discussions have started in regards to the January transfer window and the opportunities they have. Players outgoing are a big topic, with Roma also being interested in Zirkzee. Well, as we know, that was Ben Jacobs who spoke about that last Friday, a bit of an exclusive for us. I mean, I did read something from Sam C today about Zirkzee saying that, everyone's really liking his professionalism. You know, he's being a bit of a cheerleader, even though he's not getting game time. He's really getting involved in the team and, he's really like one of the lads and, really, part of the dressing room culture. Good. I like Zirkzee, so for me, I would have brought him on yesterday. But I mean, what do we think he's going to be doing? Throwing water at the players who are being picked over him, or pulling faces at Amorim. He's a professional footballer at Man United who, no doubt, is going to wait and see what happens until January. And if he's not getting game time, he's going to ask to leave. Why would you behave any differently than that? Mainoo's a good lad as well. So, look, as I said, I may have been a little bit emotional, football-y emotional, in the game yesterday when I said that if I was Mainoo and Zirkzee, I'd be putting a transfer request in, because if I can't get on in that game, I'm never going to get on. But I think we all know that those players are going to have every right to ask to leave in the summer or in January, unless they get some game time between now and then. I don't think Amorim trusts them, as is his right. There was a great comment this morning about how the substitutes, when they came on against Brighton, nearly made that game closer than it needed to be. Maybe that's why I didn't bring them on yesterday. I don't know. Have we got a budget for January, says Holger? Well, we had a budget for Baleba that didn't get spent. And the club can twist and turn their way out of that if they want. But we were in negotiations for Baleba and we didn't buy him. And we didn't buy him because we felt the price was too much. So if United try and make out they've got no money in January, you've been exposed, because they do. How much they've got, I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether they've got 60. I don't know whether that was going to be in instalments. But we've definitely got some money. We have definitely got some money, yeah. Brilliant show tonight. Always like the Sunday night show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, as always. Matthew McFadden says, I think we've got about 50 million. We might not need to spend it, though. I mean, if you could do Conor Gallagher on a loan to buy, that will massively help our midfield. And you know why we need a midfielder in January, by the way? Very, very quickly. If our midfield was shit against Forest yesterday, or average, it certainly wasn't good. If our even if you're generous and you say our midfield was okay against Forest yesterday, there's no way you'd keep both those players on for 90 minutes, and we did. So it's universally understood that our midfield didn't play well yesterday, but they both played 90 minutes. What does that tell you? If we had a midfielder that Amorim trusted, he probably would have brought them on. But he won't bring Mainoo and Agate on. So if I hear anybody go, we don't need a midfielder until the summer because we've got Mainoo and Agate, he won't bring them on in a game where the midfield's not playing well. This is why we need a midfielder in January. Because if Sir Jim Ratcliffe sat there going, well, at the end of the day, we don't need a midfielder because we've got Mainoo and Agate. He doesn't... They're just... Basically, they may as well be 2 sacks of cement sat on the bench. Because they're not... He doesn't trust them. So, we need a midfielder in January. It's not about numbers. It's about... What's the point in having 2 players if you don't want to use them? There we go. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Great show as always. Take care. Stay safe. I'm on the morning show tomorrow, so I'll see you at 10 o'clock. And yeah, thanks very much. Thanks very much for watching. I'll speak to you in a bit.